Welcome to this week's edition of World Crisis Radio. This is Webster Tarpley reporting here from Washington, D.C. Program being recorded on the afternoon of Good Friday. We now need to look at the sweeping changes in the world associated with the emerging alliance between Saudi Arabia and Pakistan, with, of course, Russia and China and perhaps other powers in the background. This revolves around the trip of Prince Bandar of the National Security Council of Saudi Arabia to Pakistan some weeks ago, with an underground freakout, an underground hysteria here in Washington against what Bandar and his faction in Saudi Arabia are doing together with Pakistan. I would point to an op-ed in the Washington Post in the first 10 days of April by Martin Indyk. This is about the 8th or 9th of April. Martin Indyk, this strange Australian naturalized U.S. citizen, then ambassador to Israel, who put together an op-ed containing a pretty naked threat to overthrow the Saudi kingdom with a color revolution, people power coup, or just a CIA putsch, if he can do it. And the key line of this article is, the Saudi system is fragile. Pretty clear blackmail talk from this gangster, Indyk, who is now at the Brookings Institution. Now, in the wake of a growing awareness in the Washington bureaucracy that Saudi Arabia may be breaking away from U.S. control, we're seeing some counter moves. I would also supplement this with the idea, of course, that what Bandar had been doing is a number of things. To try to get Pakistani troops, if necessary, a division of infantry, sent to Saudi Arabia in case the CIA tries to play the card of an all-out color revolution, or, as is more likely, tries to overthrow Saudi Arabia starting from the Yemen destabilization. If you have civil war in Yemen, you could generate armies, terrorist groups, irregular forces that could then easily enter Saudi Arabia. And similarly with Bahrain, trying to use that to engineer a clash between Saudi Arabia and Iran. But it goes further. We have some reports that Saudi Arabia is seeking to obtain its own independent nuclear deterrent. In other words, to essentially match whatever the Iranians might have. The Saudis are seeking, according to some reports, unconfirmed, seeking Chinese missiles. These would be IRBMs, intermediate-range ballistic missiles, regional-type missiles, but with several thousand miles of throw capacity. Chinese missiles possibly equipped with Pakistani nuclear warheads. Now, that has to be taken with some skepticism, but on the other hand, it's also quite plausible. We have today, the 22nd of April, 22nd of April, an exchange of greetings, a very, very significant exchange of greetings between Bandar and Gilani, the Prime Minister of Pakistan. This is essentially letters where Bandar says to Pakistan, we want to have close, friendly, special relations with Pakistan. In other words, a Pakistani-Saudi special relationship is the heart of this letter by Bandar. And then Gilani responds that these are two brotherly countries. This is sort of a formal diplomatic registering. It's a démarche that says we're now in a special relation. And then again, that means the Pakistani nuclear umbrella could already be extended over Pakistan, so that there would be quite possibly a deterrent effect on anybody wanting to attack Saudi Arabia. This then comes in the context of extremely acrimonious provocations by Admiral Mullen. Admiral Mullen, the top warmonger in the Pentagon, the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, in my view, violating the elementary rules of hospitality by insulting his hosts. He goes to Islamabad, he visits Pakistan, and he engages in a series of provocation interviews with the Pakistani press, telling them, oh, your government consorts with terrorists. Your government is allied with the Haqqani network, the Haqqani network being a faction of the Taliban. Pakistan works with terrorists. The Haqqani network, says Mullen, to a whole series of Pakistani internal media. Mullen had a meeting with General Kayani, the head of the entire Pakistani military establishment. General Kayani responded in kind. He shot back saying, we demand the cessation of these terror drone attacks, right? The infamous CIA Predator drones flying over Pakistan, killing innocent civilians left and right. They're killing you on the basis of being a Taliban sympathizer. Think of what that means. It's Operation Phoenix in Vietnam, the massive slaughter of civilians practiced from the sky in an even more cowardly way than it was done back in Vietnam. The latest handiwork of these Predator drones, there are now 40 Pakistani members of a village council killed by a Predator drone, 40 members of a council, and they say, well, they were all, the U.S. claims, all members of the Taliban, a fantastic story. So the provocations by Mullen are met then by a relatively firm response from Kayani. Now, we have further exchanges. In the last days of March, beginning of April, right after Bandar went to Pakistan, we had an immediate blitz visit by Robert Gates, the founder of al-Qaeda, who is now the head of the Pentagon, Defense Secretary of the U.S., visiting there. And then within a few days, we have this nonentity, this Donnellan, the head of the National Security Council, coming in and presumably repeating the message, which is, don't you dare go off the reservation or we will make life very tough for you. The Pakistanis are hanging tough. The Pakistanis are demanding not only the cessation of the Predator drones, but they're also demanding the names of all the CIA secret agents who have been bootlegged into Pakistan. And that comes, of course, in the wake of the Ray Davis affair. Ray Davis arrested for murder, and apparently pretty good case that he was, in fact, guilty of murder. But he's also accused in various Pakistani publications of being a terrorist controller who was directing the activities of various terrorists, and also accused by these same publications of having something to do with the preparations for a dirty bomb. In other words, getting nuclear material into the hands of these terrorists so that they could set off a radiological dirty bomb, and then, of course, the U.S. would be able to argue the Pakistani nuclear arsenal is not under control, therefore we, the great U.S., will seize it. Now, naturally, if you're in the Pakistani propaganda operation, you might want to point out the hypocrisy of this. Mullen says to Kayani, you are allied with the Haqqani network. Good answer to that is, that's nothing. You're working with al-Qaeda terrorists, Guantanamo inmates in Libya. You're arming them, you're paying them, you're acting as their diplomatic frontmen, you're giving them propaganda cover, you are providing them with every conceivable service. Essentially, is it that the Pentagon is now the headquarters of al-Qaeda, or that al-Qaeda is the infantry of the Pentagon? Cut it any way you want. But the inherent contradiction, which we pointed out in previous weeks, that you're going to be supporting al-Qaeda in Libya, but you're going to be killing people over this al-Qaeda issue in Pakistan, is now boiling up to the surface, and we'll be back in just a minute here on World Crisis Radio.